Yogah Karmasu Kaushalam.
Hello everyone, welcome to this e-module on communication essentials. It's an honor to be partnering with the UGC Human Resource Development Center for Gujarat University. HRDCGU is ranked as 15 all over India and is number 1 in Gujarat. It's a pioneer and has created history and benchmarks by organizing the first of its kind online refresher course, the first of its kind online annual refresher program in English, development of e-content, first of its kind PhD courses. It is also partnered with many foreign universities. You can see more information on YouTube and the website links which are flashing on screen right now. I'm Binita Parikh, and I'll be talking on communication basically because I have 28 years plus work ex in communication and journalism. I'm currently also associated in sharing my thoughts on communication, working in communication interventions and lectures in various places. I very firmly believe that you are who you communicate to be with the external world or the internal world, but you shape your own personality based on your communication. As professors, lecturers, we are that much more into communication, basically because we don't just shape ourselves, but also our students, our participants through communication. Or I hope that the next 1 hour is extremely productive for you. Just think, what are your expectations from this 1 hour of interaction? And if you are saying that you are not very sure, वो तो तुम्हारा काम है, you are supposed to take the session, so you tell us, then I would say this is the first lesson in communication. Please always have minimum 2 expectations from any communication that you enter in. Either you are consuming or giving. This is the essence of communication. I'll elaborate on this in a while, but remember this. Do not step in any communication without any expectations. Across this hour, I'll be pausing and asking you a few questions. You might say, ki, e-module, what's the use of questions? But the questions are not for seeking answers. Aapka MCQ exam will be taken. I am not here for that. Nor are these questions meant to test your knowledge. But I want to ask these questions so it assists you in internalizing whatever we are talking. And you realize, because all of you are pretty experienced people who are at a good high level of actualization, I want these questions so that it helps you understand where you are, where your thoughts are, and where you can change a bit if it suits you. And a paper and pen will also aid this internal reflections. So please keep a paper and a pen and do something like this. An A4 size paper, create 8 such columns. There, I'll be talking of 8 various topics. Note down these topics and at least 3 takeaways that you can think from these topics, subtopics that we like. I'm talking going to talk about elements of communication or what should you do before you start a lecture. I am talking of elements of communication, but I will not have a topic before you start lecture. So you can do whatever ways that she said, elements of communication, and these are the 3 points. Or you feel that, okay, what she said, I can do this in a lecture. So this is how I would want to do an action from these. You can take either of these approaches, but please take a piece of paper and write down these things. This essentially also is a very good communication tool, and I use this pretty extensively, especially when I'm taking sessions, physical also. So this helps when people write it down and they are conscious that they need to write down. There is more internalization, more remembrance. And this automatically means you are doing two very crucial things of communication: repetition and recall. Whenever you want to communicate, these are two very crucial things. This is what you will do by this simple exercise. So please understand, whatever you communicate, the purpose is that the person recalls. So when they have written something down, recall goes very high. And repetition, you are saying and they are writing it down. So automatically repetition happens. So recall, repetition, two very crucial things. So this is for your learning as well as your takeaway, that creates this kind of action sheets, repeat things so that people can recall things, right? So I'll give you what we will be talking of. We'll be talking of process or elements of communication. We'll be also talking about structuring of content, and we'll be talking of levels of learning. Now, these three are, I will not be taking them as separate chapters. These are integrated and meshed together in each other. So that is how I'll be talking of them. And in the last 20 minutes, I'll be talking of nonverbal communication, because this is a very crucial part of how professors communicate. Now, is what I'm going to talk about very, very new? No. There are certain things which you, as successful professionals, will be doing. Let that be validation. Okay, that's what is supposed to be done, and I'm doing. There are some things which you definitely know, but you are not actually doing. So if in the course of discussion you feel that, oh, this does make sense and I will do, I should do, please do that. And some things hopefully will be very new. You will learn literally, oh, this could be done also. Please definitely note these things down. So it's either new content, new application, or validation. All these three aspects will be there, and if nothing, it will definitely be repetition so that you can recall these points later on. Okay, so this is the first basics that are very required. Any communication that you do anywhere in the world will fall in this. There are hundreds of communication theories. All these fall down to this. This is the basics of communication, whatever you do. There is a sender and there is a receiver. Two very important parts. If you see in the diagram, the sender wants to send the idea, the message to the receiver, and they encode it using communication channels. The encoding is done with clarity, style, and correctness so that the receiver can decode the message. This, in essence, is the communication process. I'll be elaborating it in the next 20 to 30 minutes. But in essence, where do you see yourself? Obviously, you are the sender, but given the entire teaching process, what happens is the sender's circle or the sender's importance in our communication process becomes very high. So this equal size of sender and receiver is skewed. Just imagine, like, the whole construction of the classroom is like that. You are the only person standing, everybody is sitting. Many times you are on the elevated platform. So everybody has to have a focus on you. That elevation gives you power. And students have nothing to do, but they have to look at you. You have the power of ensuring that, okay, these people pass or fail. So this equality in communication doesn't happen. This power of passing and failing we'll put aside, because that is some other aspect, not pure communication. But even while communicating, the whole infrastructure, soft and hard, is modeled around the fact that you know more than the receiver and you have to tell them, right? But pure communication, if you get in this mode of your circle being bigger than the receivers, then miscommunication starts to happen anywhere. If any of these 6 plus 1, 7 elements of communication are missing, even the size changes, barriers to communication happen, and therefore miscommunication happens. Therefore, whatever you are planning, keep this in front of you and see these elements. Okay? Sender is the crux and therefore the most important aspect. Yes. But receiver is equally important, right? Now, let me ask you a question. I have used different colors with a purpose. So, um, like, yes, there are shades are different, but tell me which color do you think is the most used color in this diagram? Yes, many of you must have thought blue, some would have thought red, some would have thought yellow because that's a huge background, and some of you would have thought white. The answer that I was looking for was white. Basically, why I'm sharing this is we do not focus sometimes on the background. We do not even see white as the color. But if that color was not there, all the others would just not happen. This is the classic example of what context happens in communication. The sender is the person who is very crucial of the context because they have thought of what message you want. They know the results, they know the expected outcomes, and they know what situation will be around. Context, therefore, is very crucial. All of you know that if you are teaching a first year student and postgraduates, even though your content may be the same, the context is different. Therefore, the approach to that topic would be different for you. This same PPT, I choose to teach fifth standard students, undergraduates, and IAS officers also. So the PPT may be the same, but what I teach, how I approach differs because the context changes, right? So context is something very, very crucial, but just like you tend to not focus on the white color, the same way, while we are so much under stress of communicating, we tend to forget the context. It is something which is easily overlooked. But again, that is what creates a lot of miscommunication, right? In journalism colleges, I gave this example. Okay, if you are in India, you have free speech. But if you go to Dubai and want to act in the same manner, you cannot because the context changes. It is not a free country, it's a monarchy. You do not have the right. If you do not recognize this context, you will not be able to do a job. And journalists are communicators. So the context is something very crucial, which unfortunately almost everyone overlooks. Whenever you are planning, context and second is expectations. Remember, I told you that these two things are unfortunately very often overlooked. Context and expectations remembered. And in that, the entire fulcrum of communication will be 5 W's and H. What, when, where, why, who, and how. If you cover these 6 aspects, you will be able to ensure that chances of miscommunication or barriers being created in your communication are minimized. So these kind of exclamations, I said they didn't understand. I was trying my best, but their focus was not there. These kind of things will not happen. Because please remember, barriers, miscommunications will creep in, but 80% of the time it is the sender's fault because they are the people who are supposed to create the communication, keeping in mind the entire communication process with all the elements. And therefore, even though as professor, it's not very pleasant to hear this, but actually the fact is that 80% of the time, if students are showing disinterest, if students are not understanding, if students are not responding, it is the professors or the lecturer's fault, right? So if you just focus on these 7 elements, scenario should and will change. Earlier, I was mentioning that we tend to focus on ourselves rather than on the receiver. When I asked you, Ki, what is your expectation? Have you asked this question to students? We tend not to. And therefore, the miscommunication starts happening. We are sure what we want, but are the students ready? Will they understand the language? Are their minds open enough? Are they ready enough? We need to understand that. For that, we need to understand their demographics, their age, their social background, what are they exposed to. For example, if I want to actually communicate, I will play video games because communication is my forte, and students spend a lot of time playing these games. So I actually spend time learning PUBG and learning Free Fire because students willingly spend their time there. I love to take example of movies because students go on movie marathons. They spend time and money on that particular piece of communication. So understanding this helps, right? Also understand what is their purpose. Why are they coming in communication? Like, because exam pass करनी है, because attendance चाहिए. What is their purpose? And then connect from there onwards. I'm not saying that their purpose is what you should serve, but it helps you understand shaping the communication. Understand their level of understanding. We are so much into our subject that sometimes we tend to forget that those people will not be able to grasp also what we are saying. So go to their level, very crucial. And it's they may have some psychological blocks, some learning blocks. Whenever you are creating a session, all these aspects have to be kept in mind. There are different type of learners. We'll be elaborating on that in a while. And their expectations are very crucial for you to understand the receiver and shape the communication. Give equal importance to all these things as well as your expectations. Balance it. It's not as if they are bigger, but it is not as if you are also bigger. This balance is very, very crucial. If you actually think, there are sort of 12 different type of students. One is that shy, quiet one, very sincere, but not, they won't speak up unless you support them. Then there is the challenger who is always not willing to accept anything. Then the dominator, somebody who just wants to tell the class, okay, this is happening. I am this way, the way I think the class should go. Then there is the unfocused person. Whatever you tell, he'll be, what, ma'am? Then the super achiever. Like you have just started and that person understands. And all the students are grasping ki what? And this super achiever has already understood, given you the answer and gone ahead. So if you just focus on that super achiever, then you are missing out 99% other students. But if you do not focus on that person, you feel that, okay, that person may be frustrated. So that is a challenge. There is some person who just wants to be center of attraction. Now they can fire either ways. They may be a disruptor, they may be supporter. It depends on how you handle them. So the challenger they may turn into a challenger or a dominator or even the joker. They just want attention of the class and the professor. The joker is somebody who is perpetually and always making fun. Masti chahiye, never to take anything seriously. They will be mortally kind of offended if somebody tells them that you are serious. They want to just show, and that these all are masks that they wear. Okay, these are the personalities that they take up. And there is this evil advocate who will always say, but madam, the exactly opposite of what you are trying to say. Why not this? Right? Then there's an argumentative one. Not exactly the opposite of what they will not be the devil said, okay, but they just like to argue. So, madam, if this happens, then you know they just want to argue. Whatever it is, they may be intellectual or want to showcase that they are intellectual, but they love to argue. Then there is this know it all. They are always telling even you that they know these many things. Given Google, they genuinely sometimes know more than we do. If they're interested in the topic, they'll Google it. While you are talking, they'll Google it. And they'll love to show that they have all the information at their fingertips. And that is again a challenge. We'll discuss this as the time comes. Then there is verbose. You ask the person, what big book have you read? In what aspect of this book have you read? And they will start with the first book that they have read in KG, and they will amble along the narration. And then there is this sidebar who just don't get involved. They will sit in the class as if they are spectators. Now, the challenge that professor faces is they have all these together and they will have to connect with these people. And that is why professors and teachers and trainers love in-person class, because you can see and connect with all these people at different levels. But you need to identify these people and then connect them differently. Of course, the shy one needs to be brought out, and the dominator needs to be told ke pause maro. The super achiever should be collaborated with. The devil's advocate should be given space, but then told to integrate themselves. Verbose person should be given uh, limits. Okay, you have a minute to answer, please answer. And because you continuously connect with the class, you will be able to differentiate them. But whenever you are going in the class, try to put the students in these categories and negotiate with them individually as well as collectively. That is something very important. For that, you need to understand their personality types also. If you actually see, all the students will have these four things that you can categorize them: focus of energy, taking in information, how they come to conclusions, and approach to life. Almost all prefer one over the other sets in these things. So, how do you connect? If the person is extrovert, what will happen is they love to speak a lot while they are thinking, not before they come to a conclusion. Whereas introvert person is not really a person who does not like to connect, but they before they speak want their own internal space. Like I said, how you communicate, they communicate with themselves first and then they communicate with others. Extroverts start communicating with others before they've communicated with themselves. So you have to teach even the students a balance. So the extroverts, you can tell, communicate with yourself first, and the introverts, you can tell, communicate with others first also. The same way, some people like to understand what, when, where, why, how of the situation, get into all these details, sensing things, understanding, thinking, and then react. Whereas others do not like too much of thought processes. They feel, they, get this feel and want to work. Both of them are like that. So understanding, oh, this is how these people will work, makes sense. So when you are teaming up students for activities, or when you are telling them what kind of assignments, team up. Sometimes it makes sense to put two extroverts together, but sometimes for a balance, it makes extrovert and introvert together as pairs or teams when you are teaching them. So understanding personality of your class becomes very crucial, right? We have talked now about the senders and the receivers. Now, what passes on from the professor to the student is the idea, right? Now, if I ask you, what is it that you do? What is it? What is the purpose of your taking lectures? What would your answer be? Write that down on a piece of paper. Reflect on it. Please don't write that you change their personalities, you shape their futures. These are the impact or the outcome of what you are doing. Like I told you what I'm doing. My message or my purpose is to ensure elements of communication, the structure, nonverbal communication. This is my message or the purpose. The impact that I want is that you are able to communicate better with students. You are communicating, you are all good at it, but I want you to be more effective or efficient. So that is the impact that I'm looking for, but not the purpose. My purpose is I am sharing the elements of communication, non-verbal communication, and how you apply it to your work. So what is it that you do? Your answer should be along these lines. You are giving information and you are teaching application of knowledge. Now, what is information? When does it come to knowledge? What is it that you are sharing? Every session that you should have a very clear idea about you want to give information or are you teaching knowledge. Now, before Google, in the intervention of Google, and that is why I jokingly call it Google God, because Google seems to have answers to all the questions 90% of the time, even for application, but information 110%. Like if you put this phrase communication essentials, you will get an amazing amount of more than 1 crore hits, and you will get also a lot of info. Now, information, therefore, to this generation is not a fascination. I remember a time where, getting a good book which explains everything to you was, ki, "Ore yaar, I got it." That itself was a treasure. But now information is of no value. So if we as professors, instructors keep on harping on information, we lose value because we take 1 hour to share information which they could have got it on a click of a button. It does not make sense to even them. So whenever we are planning sessions, we need to balance between information and its application. They have information and overload of load of information. That is the issue. That is the problem that they face. कि उनको बोलो कि सर्च करो, बहुत सारा सर्च कर देंगे. अभी इसमें से relevant information and how are you going to make it relevant? How will you apply it to the current situation? That they do not have. So we need as professors to change our focus also, not just giving information, not just checking them for information, but also application of information. And this, whenever you step in a session, you should yourself have very absolutely clear idea. We will elaborate on this in a while also, that how can you have this idea? What are you expecting from them? What is the level of understanding and how will you word it? We'll be going in detail in a while. But this, your understanding or your proper specifying the purpose of every communication will be based on the why, your expected outcomes, and the impact will be that it will shape the where, when, and how of your connect with the students. Therefore, your categorization of idea should be very, very clear with this purpose. And that will also give you the idea of communication channel. Now, what is communication channel? You have to ensure what is it at your hand. Sometimes you do not have um, PPTs at disposal. Sometimes you cannot show videos. Sometimes you have a very small class. Sometimes you have a very huge class. The physical infrastructure, the software infrastructure, that you feel that, okay, this topic needs 4 hours, but you just have half an hour. You have 1 hour, but you know that students have this Culfest happening, so they are mentally not present. So you choose different kind of approach and different kind of communication because you know their focus is not going to be there, so you make them write notes ki write this, suno nahi chalega, but take these notes away. Or you have a lot less time, so you just focus on the application part and give them the handouts on information. Get read information, it is self explanatory, and this is how you apply it. So depending on what you want, what is the experience that you want, and what are the outcomes, you will choose the communication channels. This is very crucial because you also will decide whether what is the structure and how are you going to ensure the visual part. Now the structural part, I will just share the structure. Like what do we usually do? We give the background, we then build upon whatever background we have, connect it with what resources we have, some reasons, whatever. Then we have the final message or conclusion. Then we tell them this is the reason why I was talking all this. This is called the traditional approach. Now, because of Google and because of very low attention span, like 140 words padhte hain, the students feel, oh wow, they have read a lot. Okay. Um, I'm from the newspaper industry. So earlier, our minimum um, newspaper article length was 500 words. Now, maximum is 200 words. People do not feel like reading long essays. Like 500 words, they call it an essay. Ki itna lamba who will read? So the attention span everywhere is getting reduced. So the first thing they ask is, what is my takeaway? Only then I'll be interested. And therefore, I'm telling a structure format called inverse pyramid. Traditionally, this was used very strongly in newspaper industry, but now business industry or business communication is also shaped along these lines. But it makes sense to even introduce or use this structure in educational. So you tell them what is their takeaway, what is, how are they connected, मने कितना टका, मुझे क्या फर्क पड़ता है, is something that students constantly ask. So you tell them कि okay, you know, the moment you step out in the street, this is going to happen. This kind of question is something I'll be asking in the examination. This is something which is going to happen in your viva. Whatever takeaways are there, their connect, tell them the most important thing, not everything. So they know why are they consuming, it will funnel their focus. And this makes sense ki if they are interested, then their focus will automatically happen. It will help you. This structure, you both are correct. Like I said, communication is never wrong. Whatever you feel, it is unique and there are no rights and wrongs. But you just have to understand the impact of it. When using the communication channel, that is why based on the structure, you can do combination of visual and text, covering all types of learners. Like I said, why visual or why text? I'll just be focusing on what are different type of learners, complexity, whatever it is. Like if it's the more complex, it makes sense to have written communication or something visual that they can see, not just hear, because they might forget. If it's really important, you share. Like if you must have seen right now how I am doing, I am actually telling you certain things and certain important words which I want you to recall and remember, you are seeing visually, right? So that is how you structure the entire communication, and that will help you encode. When you are encoding, it is basically using communication channels so that the idea will move from you to the students, and they have to decode. You may have given or delivered a fantastic lecture, but if they don't understand, what will be the sense? Like I'm talking in English, this may be a very fantastic presentation, but if this is shown to a French class where nobody understands English, then this will be useless because they are not able to decode my communication, howsoever fantastic it is. So decoding by the receiver is as important as encoding. Very crucial to do that. There are some 3 to 170 different learning styles. If you search the net, you will find. But when you are structuring your lectures, there are 4 types of learners or learning styles that you need. One is visual. They love to see graphic representation, maps, graphs, diagrams, tables, flowcharts. It works for them. They see things represented visually and it works for them. Then there are people who love to hear. Auditory sensations are very strong. So they listen. There are people who say कि यार बता दो, लिखा हुआ सब मत करो, लिखा पट्टी नहीं, बता दो. So they are auditory. They love to hear. And lectures and group discussions work for such people. Then there are people who say कि अरे यार ये बोला नहीं, give me, I will do it with my own hands. Only then I will be able to learn. This type of learning style is very obviously not everyone likes that. Huh? It's like combination of these also happens. So people like this personal experience. You take them, like in journalism, we would tell the students that before you write an article, go to that place, feel that before you start writing article. Or we call that um, कि ground reality समझ में आनी चाहिए आपको. And we would not let our trainees write newspaper reports unless they have gone there. So ground zero reporting would something which you call that is personal experience. I would want to include, like in this, I have included visual and auditory, but I have not been able to do kinesthetic because I cannot give you this experience in e-learning module. That is what works. And reading and writing, that I have been able to give. So whatever I'm speaking, you see that in actual words also in front of you. There are people who like words, therefore they do very well in written and assignments and quizzes. Now, all these four are different. It is not as if there is a combination not available, but one is a preferred style. So when you are planning a session or when you are planning checking them, ensure that all these four are able to prove themselves on all the four. Like if you are giving information, at least visual, auditory, and reading should be there. So you can plan handouts, written handouts, if and talk about the same thing. That's what I'm doing. Like I'm flashing words, I've put it in a visual format, and I'm speaking. So these three online session you can do, offline session. That is why we love it much more, because the experience you can give in offline sessions. Online sessions also we can do, but if it's interactive. The other types are based on how they consume or how are they grasping the information. And they can be logical or analytical, social or linguistic learners, solitary, group में पसंद है. But these all types help you. These four basic you need to ensure. These are the 11 tactics which you are meant to influence students. You do that. You can do persuasion, consultation, inspirational appeals, collaboration, apprising them, using flattery, friendship, connect, give them support. These eight are positive influences. As professors, you can influence them in a fantastic way. Use these eight positive approaches. If they don't work, the other three are a bit negative. But try to use the first eight before you use coercion, pressure, something like that. Okay. These six things we have done, the most important thing is feedback. Now, this many people do not see as a process of communication, but for professors, always give time to students. They are thinking, young, lively minds. Give them space. Ask them, so what is your opinion? What do you feel? Would you like to comment? Why don't you comment? And if they do not, it means you have not created a safe environment, or they have not been involved. That is also feedback for you. But yes, it is not always easy to tell the professor ki boring lecture tha, bhangar lecture tha. So you can give anonymity to it. You can use platforms like menti.com, which are absolutely anonymous, and flash it immediately. Or you can ask them that give me notes in writing, blind ballot. Just put down your opinions and write, and you need not write your name. You can create surveys. um, it's so easy now. Google Forms or Monkey Survey, any such surveys. You can just ask them to rate, give rating of 1, 2, 3, 4. You can share like exams or quizzes and its result. You can say, give me advice. Students love that. कि ओ प्रोफेसर ने हमसे आइडिया मांगा या एडवाइस मांगा. But these are all 7 types. So it's not as if you ask, so how did you feel the lecture was? Don't. That is not the way you will get feedback. Work on these lines. Ki, what is your opinion on this? How would you want to do me to do this? Word this way and seek out feedback. Very crucial. No communication is complete without feedback. So always plan feedback in your sessions. And what I talked about the purpose and levels, this is what I meant. Okay, what do you expect from the students, right? This grid is basically for that. The first portion is cognitive process. What do you want them to be involved? What is the level of involvement? It is from lower to higher thinking skills. So you can ask them to remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, or create. This remember is the lowest and create is the highest. Whereas what are you giving them? What is your input? This is called the knowledge dimension, where you can go from concrete to abstract. So you can be factual, you are sharing just facts. A, B, C. You have conceptual, you have procedural and metacognitive. That is difficulty level. So when you just want a very low thing, you can say list down students. I want students to be able to list things that I am talking. This is very low level of cognitive process and knowledge dimension. Just information sharing and they should remember. You can ask them to recognize things or recall or identify. Go level up in the cognitive process and ensure that they understand things. This you can use the words like summarize, classify, clarify, or predict. Now, when asking them to predict, they have to understand and be more involved at a metacognitive level where they can say, iski jagah pe ye hoga. If two and these two people meet, then this is likely to happen. So that is understanding. Application of knowledge, what we're talking of. How can you check? How can you put that in exact words? Check how they respond to a certain stimuli. Provide, use, or carry out things. Are they able to do that? So when you are framing the structure, or when even if you are framing the assignment, use these words. And when you're asking feedback, also use these words like, will you be able to carry out this task? Will you be able to classify these? Will you be able to select what is required for getting this outcome? Use these words. Even in assessment, even in seeking feedback also, and even in planning at your idea stage. So that is why idea is so important, because when you choose idea that I just want them to be able to list things, then that is what you're expecting. You are not expecting any high level involvement of students, but the more higher it is, the more challenging it will be for you. So if you are asking them to determine something, they should first recognize, they should be able to classify, they should be able to differentiate, and then only they will be determining. Just giving them a list and then asking them to determine won't work. These are also the stages or levels of understanding that you have to pass them through. They cannot judge unless they are very clear about what they are supposed to do or whatever the information is. They need to reflect. And that is why I said the entire process works that way. And creation is the most difficult. You ask them to generate something, assemble it, or create. This is basically how you move their levels of understanding, or what is it that you are sharing with them. Factual is the most easy, most abstract is metacognitive, which is challenging. Remembering is easy, creating is the most difficult. So what are you wanting? Use these kind of words so that you know your outcome, you know what you are giving them, and the whatever is in the gray area is how you want them to behave. Okay. Now we are coming to the non-verbal communication. Up till now, what we have been talking is words. How are words used? I'm sharing you photographs. Please think for a second, what is the message that this photograph is showing? And why do you think whatever story you feel works? I'll be sharing that, but I want you also to reflect so you realize how words ke bina, like these are just photographs, there are no words involved, but you will still get a message. Congratulations, something positive has happened. The guy on the right hand side is being congratulated by the guy on the left, and it is a formal occasion. दोस्त नहीं है, they are more likely to be work colleagues. इतनी सारी कहानी एक फोटोग्राफ में से आ जाती है. Why? Formal clothes, they are congratulating. गले नहीं मिल रहे हैं, but they are both wearing smiles. Their facial expression is like that. Now the same thing, this also looks congratulatory, but what is happening? You very clearly feel that one person, even though he's shorter, is more authoritative than the second figure. That guy is very pleased. And president, he was the president then, is like congratulating him, feeling, giving him um, some congratulatory message. This was after he won a major tournament. But even then, his eyes are lowered, his shoulders are slumping, he's like much taller than the president, but he's still trying to reduce his size. So he clearly showcases that he considers the other person superior to him. It is his posture and his the way he is holding the shoulders and his face. These two, if you see, they're both leaders of state. See their postures. Both are straight. One person is ushering the other in. So it is likely that one person is the host and the second is not. Whereas here, both have shoulders on each other's back, equal level. Both, one may be the winner, one may be the loser, but they are still considering both of themselves equal. So that is how you see their face, their postures, the way the hands are placed. If you see the other three, they are higher up on the shoulder. Here they are a bit lower on the shoulder. So where are you touching on the shoulder also changes the feel that you give. Here it is very obvious that the one person is being consoled. The entire body is reduced. The person has a very sad expression. The girl on the right hand side has a very sad expression. The other person is like seated. The legs are leaning. The person is leaning towards that person. So giving support, giving sympathy. Posture is legs are leaning, hands are supportive. The person's body is doing that. Here also it's open, but here similar, but you will not feel that the second person is sad because there is a very healthy smile. The second person is also smiling. So you are likely to feel that this is a teacher giving support to the student, but congratulatory support is likely saying that's a good work done. The again, how are the shoulders placed? How is the head placed? Where is the hand placed? What are the facial expressions? Where are the eyes looking? Both are looking at each other. So there is a positive communication happening. Here, even though there is a shoulder and hand holding, it is not romantic, very clear, because they are both looking, the eyes, very crucial, they are looking at the computer screen. And it's very evident they have done some work, especially the guy who is sitting has been doing some work. That person could be the boss or a colleague, but someone who is partnering with that person, and both are celebrating something that important has happened, right? To see these kind of gestures, these all showcase some nervousness or some closure. Whatever your normal body, it is they are closing off, they are covering some body part, or reducing their strength. Whenever your body zone gets reduced, you tend to give out a signal that you are not confident, not comfortable, not open. All these gestures show this. So, as professors, if you want to command power in your class, avoid these gestures. If you see students using these gestures, know that they are closing up. They are not opening up. There is something off. Whatever they are saying, they are not being 100% open. There is something that they are not comfortable with. These are open gestures or power gestures. These showcase power. Again, how they are holding the hand, see the body has expanded either ways, and it works. So what I have showcased are examples of nonverbal communication. Why is it important, especially for us, is your body speaks much louder than your words. And 95% of the communication is nonverbal. But more importantly, the meaning of the words that we speak are decoded through nonverbal. It is like I'll say, hello, how are you? And I'll say, hello, how are you? Now my words are hello, how are you? But in the second instant, you will not believe that I was welcoming and I was asking how you are. You would give this, you would get the feel that no, she was not welcoming, right? So the meaning of the words you have decoded through nonverbal communication, and it is something very crucial. Research has shown that when words fail to match up, people will not believe the words, they will believe this nonverbal communication. I am speaking with a, you know, angry face, and then I'm saying very good, then you will see it as a taunt, not as a supportive thing, right? So it is very important that whatever you are communicating, your nonverbal also happens. And why is it more crucial? Basically, because we tend to plan for our words, but we do not plan for our nonverbal. Do we actually sit and say that, okay, now this is the word I will say loudly. Here I want to emphasize, so I will pinpoint my finger. Here I want to show power, so I will use and expand my hands like this. We never plan our nonverbal. But if we do that slightly, it will increase our non-verbal, support our verbal very strongly. And sometimes even without saying something, we will be able to communicate. Like I said, I'll go through these fast because I already discussed it. The theory will be coming in front of you. Facial expressions are something very important because हमारी शक्ल पहले पहुंचती है, right? But the importance is facial expression pretty much similar throughout the world, but we tend to lie through face the first. मतलब, what is basically difference between a child and an adult? An adult will lie beautifully through facial expression. बच्चा झूठ बोलता है, मुंह पे ऐसे हाथ रख देता है. Adults don't do that. मुंह पे हाथ नहीं रखते, but there are other things like they may do something or the other. मूछों पे हाथ करते हैं, नाक पे करते हैं. They are pretty much similar to that. So those are the gifts of lies. But facial expressions are pretty universal. शक्ल पहुंची जाती है. So very important. The second is paralinguist. What I gave the example of the hello part, the tone, the loudness, how you speak, the speed with which you speak is something very important. Like, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Now, I'm speaking the same words, but some show disgust, some show excitement, some show enthusiasm. So, and this is something very important. 95% of the miscommunication or bura lag gaya happens because of the tone, not the actual words. You wouldn't mind somebody saying, Are gade, aja, idiot, why don't you come here? You will not be angry. But if somebody says, Idara, come here. Sir, yes, how dare this person talks to me like that? But if you're going to explain to somebody, you will not be able to explain, oh, here the inflection was loud, here uh, this was extremely loud. And that is what got me irritated. So this is the characteristic of uh, paralinguist and nonverbal communication per se, because they can be interpreted, nonverbal can be interpreted differently in different ways. And what do you do then, right? For example, this gesture of okay, here it is okay, this gesture is okay, but if you take it to some other countries, this is a vulgar gesture. It may be you are saying how is this person, you say okay, and that person will say अरे ये कैरेक्टर का इतना बुरा है कि ये जेस्चर दिखा रहा है उसके लिए. So the culture changes, gestures change. Be very clear, you do not know that. Like when I was working in Radio Mirchi, it was okay to greet your colleague with a hug. But when after that I went to Ahmedabad Mirror and I went to a village to talk to the villagers to do a story, it was not okay if I even sat at a distance of 5 feet from the male members. That is what was not okay with them. So simple, हाथ मिलाने की गले लगाने की तो बात छोड़ो, right? So gestures are very cultural specific, and you have to take care of that. Body language, like I said, very, very important. What are you doing? Another two things which are very culture specific are the distance that you keep and the touch. Especially with posh, professors should be very, very aware of this. How much distance two people can keep? It is entirely dependent on culture and individuals. Are you okay with the touch? Is the other person okay with the touch? Very, very challenging. So as professors, be on the conservative side, especially about these two things. You will feel that you are comforting or you are encouraging, the other person just might be not comfortable with the distance. You do not know this, so be very clear of the space, the social space, and the touch. And the eye gaze, I said very clearly, eyes are the windows to the human soul. So whatever it is, keep a steady contact. In fact, that is one of the reasons why we professors, trainers do not like online, because nazar ke samne nahi hote bande. But it is very, and we do not like this offline. We like online if there is eye connect. So if everybody keeps their video on, fine. But if the people do not keep their video on, we feel, array, yaar, offline is better because here they will not be able to switch off the camera, right? We actually celebrated that. Ki now you will not tell me camera is off, madam. We will not be able to switch on. But it is genuinely that eye contact is that much of a connect. And two other things, appearance and props. So obviously appearance is what kind of clothes you wear and the colors, the makeup, and props. Like one of the most important props that professors use is the blackboard and the stage. That is really a power gesture, power empowering thing. If you want to connect with it, sometimes if you just get off from your uh, stage and go and sit in the benches, that's an entirely different use of a prop, and it will genuinely change the tenor of your connect with students. You can use that. So whatever, it's of course other props that you use are this, but these are also there and very effective ones. So these are the 9 nonverbal ways that you can use which support your verbal thing. And you will not finish communication unless you're active listeners. Very 6 simple tips, but we have to remember that. Pay attention, don't judge. Even though as professors, you are supposed to do that only at the time of exams. While you are communicating, leave that aside. Reflect on what they are saying also. Clarify that even if we are professors, whatever we may have understood is not necessarily what they understand or they meant. Summarize, even if they are talking, is this what you are going to say? Or ask them that, have you understood what I said? Why don't you summarize and tell me? It works both the ways. and share and take feedback with an open mind. So communicate using those 7 elements, understand, be specific in the words. I have shared an entire grid with you, and take feedback, give feedback, and do not forget active listening is as much as part of communication as speaking. Non-verbal, without speaking, also you can communicate. I hope that I have communicated quite a lot and you will be able to use something in your lectures. Thank you.